Hi, this is Mrs. Roberts, and today we're doing AP Psychology 9.7. Number 1. The basal metabolic rate of the body slows after approximately the age of 40, resulting in a tendency to blank. It's important that you know what the basal metabolic rate of your body is before you are able to answer this question. For those of you who've been in health, paid close attention, maybe even weightlifting or gym, other than just playing sports, you might know that your metabolic rate has to do with how you process food and then eventually are able to have your body use it for energy. Our best choice here for all of those pieces of information is gain weight, right? Could be oxygen. So we have to sometimes do a little extra research if you don't know what that is. So if we go to the interwebs, basal, there you go, metabolic rate, JK, metabolic rate. So metabolism comprises the process that the body needs to function. All right, so go back to this question, feeling good. All right, number 2. In late adulthood, individuals experience a decrease in which of the following? So if we just use our past knowledge, you're like, okay, a late adulthood, what does that even mean? So adulthood versus late adulthood. So you're probably thinking, okay, probably your 40s or your 50s, maybe your 60s. Do we know that you experience a decrease in creativity? You're like, do I remember hearing anything about that? Or compassion for others? It seems like wisdom increases as age goes, so maybe you'd be more compassionate. Cognitive abilities, maybe. Intellect, are those similar? Sexual desire, it's like, well, what did I read about? So we have to go back to the text here to really get a good idea on what that's going to be. All right, so how do intellectual abilities change in adulthood? So it says the conclusion is that after age 30, adults were over the hill when IQ scores of different age groups were compared in cross-sectional studies. A noticeable decline began between the ages 30 and 40. All right, so they go on to talk about fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. All right, so now we know, right? So we're looking at different types of things that are declining. Okay. All right, so when we go back here, we're like, what is it? Ooh, how are we going to choose? So is it intellect or is it cognitive ability? So according to your textbook, we're going to go with intellect. Number 3, 70-year-old Michaela is a retired police officer. She enjoys traveling with her husband, walking her dog, and reading newspapers to stay current with world events. Occasionally, she acts as a guest speaker at a local police academy, and she recently began taking a class on English literature, a topic that has always interested her. People often ask her how she has managed to stay so healthy and active when others her age are experiencing mental and physical decline. She would probably tell them that blank. All right, so this is a term that you guys are probably familiar with even before you took AP Psychology, but it's a term that is definitely appears in your textbook and is featured on a pretty colorful page if you're using your memory there. So how do we know and how do we keep our brain sort of fresh, mentally and physically fresh? So a good support network of younger friends and family. That seems like a reasonable answer. She's kept her mind and body active because she knows she has to use it or lose it. That's a phrase you've heard before. People whose spouses are still alive invariably function at a higher level than those who are widows or widowers. Probably haven't heard that in common knowledge. She is fortunate to have inherited such good genes since cognitive decline is very highly correlated with genetics. That's questionable. Did you read about that? People who have good relationships with animals tend to have better overall intellectual health, particularly as they age. This can't be right because we don't see anything about animals here, right? So there's no animal reference. So we kind of go back to our textbook. What did we read about? Boom, aging and mental ability, use it or lose it. So we're going to go back and think, okay, is that answer still functional? She has kept her mind and body active because she knows she has to use it or lose it. That looks pretty good. So we're going to select B. That is the correct answer. What are some other issues with the other selections? She has a good supportive network of younger friends and family. That might be helpful. but is it how she's stayed so healthy and active? What if these network of younger friends and family are not active? What if they don't even exercise and they just kind of hang out? People whose spouses are still alive function at higher levels. Um, is that true? That's not the research that we have looked at here. And then lastly, she's fortunate to have inherited such good genes, since cognitive decline is very highly correlated with genetics. And that's not true. It's actually more correlated with your nurture, so your environment. Did you, again, use it or lose it? A social clock is best defined as blank. Now, if you're using the third edition, this was very easy because this was bolded in your textbook. The fourth edition, it was much more difficult to find, so you might have had to use Google. So I've gone ahead and Googled social clock. Have you ever heard someone say or said to yourself, my clock is ticking? You probably haven't. You're not old enough yet. This is an example of a social clock, which is a cultural specific timetable for events to occur. So marriage, children, etc. So your social clock might be a little different than people in earlier generations. It might be later. I would say that I wish that I had never said this, but all of a sudden I did feel a lot of societal pressure around the time that I had my child. Not that I've felt pressured to have a kid, but I felt like, oh my gosh, I better hurry up, because I know that if I wait until I'm 35, what if there's negative effects on the baby? Too much personal information. Let's see. A social clock. Which one? A set of cultural norms? That looks good. Concerning optimal age range. Hooray. Number 5, at 65, Terry is diagnosed with cancer. He refuses to believe he has a sickness because he feels fine, so he doesn't get any treatments. When his physician informs him that his case has become terminal because he did not act, Terry tells his friends that his doctor doesn't know what he's talking about because he didn't get a medical degree or anything. When Terry's friends begin to treat him differently than they did a year ago, Terry wonders why. According to Kubler-Ross, Terry is in the blank stage with regards to death. Now, if you don't know about the stages of grief, those are pretty, kind of common knowledge to people who are into pop culture. You would probably know, if you do know, all of these are stages, right? So the ones that are here. Now, even if you don't know, you're trying to figure out, okay, what exactly is he doing, right? So does he act depressed? No. Does he act angry? A little bit. Is he in denial? Is he denying that this is happening? That looks like the best answer here. We've got bargaining. Is he bargaining with people? No. Is he accepting that he's in death mode? No. So we're going to go with C, denial. If you want a little bit more information on that, you can just type in the stages of grief. Let's see, it just pops up here. There are a lot of good images, pretty interesting. So we've got 5 stages and then 7 stages. Yours is the Kubler-Ross model that you're looking for. So that's 5 stages here. You can say, this isn't happening. Everything is okay. I don't need any help. That's definitely the example that we saw here. There we are, Terry. Just as a personal side, if you are thinking of any thing that you're going through in your life, like any sort of problem, it's interesting that this model has been applied to grief over pretty much anything, regardless of if it's death of someone or your own death. It's been applied to all sorts of sort of problems. So if you can look at this and be able to apply it to any problem that you are kind of struggling with, that would be level 5, advanced mastery. All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your day.